for most people, looking at someone who's the son of an immigrant Pakistani bus driver who was told boys like you don't do maths, was one of the things he was told at school, that they would be, I think it'd be hard not to be impressed with his life story.
I know. I've known Sajid for over 30 years. He's been a friend of mine since university. This guy literally started from nothing, and it's incredible to see this kind of left-wing intelligentsia criticise him because he made money off his own back, didn't have any help, didn't have any connections. In fact, he was turned down from some banks because they didn't like the look of him, and we should be celebrating that. That's what the Conservative Party dream is all about.
There is an issue, though, with Sajid. I'd heard many times over the last few years that he's a possible future leader. He's the one to lead the Tories in the 21st century. Very good one-to-one. I've had some interesting chats with him in green rooms and events over the years in TV studios. There is a big question about whether he's got the X factor, whether he has got that star appeal, whether he can set a room alight, whether he can excite voters who perhaps be looking over the issue of Brexit and looking to Nigel Farage, who undoubtedly does have that X factor for many voters, or looking to whether as a Tory leader looking to someone like Boris Johnson, who again undoubtedly, whether you like him or loathe him, does have that X factor. Is that something that Sajid Javid is possibly missing?
And, if you'd have seen his speech yesterday, it was incredible. There's over 100 people in the room. Ruth Davidson, big supporter, another big election winner who's transformed the party in Scotland because she looks different. She speaks like a normal person. She doesn't come from kind of posh school tie background. He's not Winston Churchill, but actually the public aren't looking for Winston Churchill. What they're looking for is somebody who will, one, deliver Brexit, and I completely agree with Chloe, it's got to be done by October 31st. Sajid has said he will do that,
and he'd be willing to have a no-deal Brexit by October 31st.
He said he will leave by October the 31st, and he's written articles in the newspapers about that. My own view, even though I voted Remain, is we have to leave now by October the 31st. The public won't stand for it.
It's time for a change. There's no more continuity, status quo. The country and parliamentarians and Parliament and everyone's just sick to death of what has gone on over the last 3 years. And we need change. We need radical change. A leader who can restore trust across the country, can deliver Brexit, but also who will deliver for our country. Julia, raise our standing in the world once again. We have become a laughingstock around the world. And I think it's about time many members of Parliament recognise the situation that we are in. We cannot carry on, just with the status quo. The stakes could not be higher. We need a massive renaissance in our democracy and inspiring new leadership that will deliver positive change. So that is why I'm supporting Boris.
A lot of the criticism yesterday of his press conference, which I thought actually went very, very well, but it was all rhetoric. He didn't really answer questions. It's all fluff and rhetoric and pumping everybody up, but not actually giving any specifics and details, which sounds very much like Boris Johnson to me. But so a lot of this for you is about someone who can just have a bit of the X factor, give a bit of sprinkle a little bit of glitter, a little bit of sparkle on things after the sort of the dour, rather miserable premiership of Theresa May.
Well, to say it was miserable is an understatement. Look at where we are in the opinion polls. Look at what's happened to us in recent elections. We are in a desperate state, and I personally feel quite strongly that we are in a national crisis over Brexit. And so at a time like this, and just speaking more broadly about the leadership contest, we cannot have a circus carrying on. We need a strong leader that perhaps can do the sparkling of dust and everything else, but actually it's much, much more stronger than that.
Okay, but if it's a national crisis over Brexit, why have you chosen Boris Johnson as the man you think, or the candidate you think is most likely to deliver Brexit? Why not Dominic Raab, the former Brexit secretary? Undoubted credentials. Why not Andrea Leadsom? Why not Esther McVeigh? Why not Michael Gove?
Well, I think for a number of reasons that I've also said continuously over the last 3-4 weeks, maybe longer, that I just don't think anyone from the current cabinet has any credibility whatsoever. But you've asked me why Boris, for a very good reason, because I think we have to get back to our winning ways. We have to be in tune with the hopes and aspirations of Britain's hard-working, law-abiding majority.
Does a lot of this come down to then the will of the Prime Minister? Because a lot of these sort of arguments were being made ahead of the 29th of March, the date that had, we thought, been set in stone. The Prime Minister, Theresa May, kept saying it was set in stone. Everyone thought it was. It was in the original invoking of Article 50 back in 2017. And there was this idea that, it's going to happen no matter what, and the default will be no deal. The Prime Minister then bottled it and went back to the EU and said, look, I can't deliver the deal, and therefore I won't deliver a no deal. Are you 100% convinced that once Boris Johnson gets into number 10, if it is him who's elected, that he would, when surrounded by all of the civil servants, all of the Treasury mandarins, everybody telling him, oh, no deal will be a disaster, you can't possibly do it, you'll damage the country, you're responsible for this, that he won't bottle it and he won't actually deliver Brexit?
First of all, you're absolutely right. The reason we didn't leave was not because of anything that happened in the House of Commons, but because Theresa May decided not to. The delay in leaving was done under executive power by the Prime Minister, not by Parliament. So we would have left on the 29th of March if Mrs May hadn't stopped it. Then the question is, does Boris have the backbone to ensure that we leave? To which the answer is yes. I thought the key phrase in his speech yesterday was kick the can and we kick the bucket. Boris has realised that if the Conservatives don't get out of the European Union on the 31st of October, there's no Conservative Party to lead. But we see how the Brexit Party performed in the European elections. We see how it performed in the Peterborough by-election. The Tory Party cannot win an election if we haven't delivered Brexit. And therefore there is a huge electoral imperative to do so. And the mandarins may play their jolly tunes, but actually, politicians decide, advisors advise, and ministers decide. And I'm confident that Boris would take us out.
Do you think Michael Gove will ever become leader of the Conservative Party after the recent revelations about him?
I think it's very unlikely he'll become leader of the Conservative Party even before we had the so-called nostril issue. I think it's very unlikely Michael will become leader because we're not called the Conservative Party for nothing, and our members remember what he did to Boris 3 years ago, and they don't like that.
Do you think that actually under a Boris government, some people like Michael Gove will be saying goodbye to their ministerial careers?
That's entirely, if Boris becomes Prime Minister, that's entirely a matter for Boris. One colleague suggested to me today that Michael would make a marvellous ambassador in Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Outer Mongolia. But, that is not a decision for me. That would be a decision for the Prime Minister.
Boris Johnson, the best person to be the next Prime Minister or not?
I don't think I'm going to be rooting for Boris, but he is a star in the Conservative firmament, and it is encouraging to hear him today say that no deal is not something he's aiming for.
Which is what I said.
And I think that's the basis on which a number of my colleagues who are worried about no deal are supporting him. But Boris is one of our stars and he deserves to be in this contest.
Do you think now is his time to be Prime Minister or not?
Well, I'm not voting for him, so clearly I don't think so. I haven't decided who I'm going to be voting for. I know I'm not going to be voting for.
I think we have a clear new Prime Minister coming up.
Really?
That's my view.
Who do you think's going to be the new Prime Minister?
Boris.
That's the same as you, Mark.
I think it probably will be Boris, yes.
But hang on, Charlie, you are an arch Remainer.
That's right, but this is not really about Brexit no longer. This is about somebody leading the country, somebody that we can be inspired by, and somebody that can get people back together. So,
even though he's gonna take us out of the European Union, deal or no deal.
Well, I think that's going to be out of his control. I think I've said from day one that there'd be a second referendum, and I'm still sticking to that.
You're a backer of the Conservative Party. You, in all kinds of ways. Would you, if they don't do what you want, would you actually consider backing another party?
Well, I already have backed another party. As you know, I've probably putting it bluntly, jumped in bed with the Lib Dems.
Right.
But look,
Mark will talk you out of that, I'm sure.
But would I go back to supporting the Conservatives if Boris become Prime Minister? The answer is yes, undoubtedly. Because, I believe with a new leader, a new challenge, and as Mark said...
Do you think, Charlie, I mean, this is the thing, and Mark, I want to get you on this as well. Do you think, here's Boris, he's very entertaining. I mean, to meet him, I'm sure you've met him, he's a very charming, a very nice guy. But when he gave his speech today, I mean, it was high theatre, really, and it was very sort of organised, controlled, and then when a couple of questions came, he did go slightly off-piste. And you wonder if, as Prime Minister in another country, could we trust him to be statesmanlike?
Well, look, I think you say that, but I think he's actually stepped up to the mark. I mean, the man's not a fool for sure, you know.
No, absolutely not.
You know, let's not kid anyone. He's done a great job of London Mayor for 2 terms. People supported him. People got behind him. He got the country back together. And I think that's what he's going to do now.